All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to unpack the science behind one of the most talked about, researched, and honestly misunderstood substances in the entire health and fitness world. We're demystifying creatine. For decades, it's had a very specific reputation, but modern science paints a wildly fascinating picture of what this compound actually does inside our bodies. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this preconception right away. When you hear the word creatine, you probably picture a massive bodybuilder at the gym chugging a shaker bottle right after deadlifting an absurd amount of weight. And hey, you wouldn't be entirely wrong. It is heavily used in that world. But if you think that's its only application, you are missing out on a massive piece of the puzzle.
Because the truth is, creatine provides whole body benefits. We're talking about profound impacts on your brain, your muscles, and your overall cellular health. This isn't just some niche product for gaining size, it's a holistic, incredibly well-researched tool for almost everyone, regardless of where you are on your fitness journey, or even if you don't step foot in a gym at all.
To make sense of all this, we've structured today's explainer into 5 clear parts. 1. The ultimate energy engine. 2. Boosting muscle and performance. 3. Brain health and memory. 4. Fighting fatigue and disease. And finally, 5. Safety and how to use.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the ultimate energy engine. We're going straight down to the cellular level.
To really grasp why creatine has such wide-ranging effects on the body, we kind of have to zoom way in. Everything starts here with a little molecule called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. You could think of ATP as the universal energy currency of your cells. Every single time you blink, breathe, think, or move, your cells are spending ATP to make that happen. But there's a catch. When you're performing at maximum intensity, like sprinting to catch a bus or doing a heavy lift, you actually spend your ATP faster than your body can reproduce it. You literally run out of cellular cash.
And that biological mechanism builds perfectly on our understanding of ATP. Here's how it actually works, step by step. When you take creatine, it boosts something in your body called your phosphocreatine stores. That phosphocreatine swoops in and acts like a rapid recharge station, aiding the incredibly fast formation of new ATP. The end result? Your muscles and cells can produce more energy for a longer duration exactly when you need it most. That is the fundamental engine driving everything else we're about to discuss.
Moving on to Section 2, boosting muscle and performance. We're looking way beyond just size here. So now that we know the engine is supercharged, what does the output actually look like? Well, the sheer variety of physical improvements is honestly staggering. We're looking at documented increases in strength, ballistic power, sprintability, muscle endurance, resistance to fatigue, and overall recovery. This isn't just about making a muscle look bigger, right? It's about fundamentally optimizing athletic performance across the board. And again, studies show this benefits everyone, from elite athletes to complete beginners.
Just to put a concrete figure on it, think about the number 15. Research reviews have shown that creatine can actually improve high-intensity exercise performance by up to 15%. If you're an athlete, you know a 15% edge is absolutely massive. It is literally the difference between hitting a wall and pushing through to a brand new personal best.
And this brilliantly illustrates the consensus in the scientific community today. This quote is a direct position statement from the International Society of Sports Nutrition. They boldly state, "Creatine is the world's most effective supplement for adding muscle mass." That isn't marketing copy. That's a definitive conclusion from a major sports nutrition authority, backed up by decades of rigorous data.
To give you a super specific example, there was this fascinating 6-week training study that tracked 2 groups doing the exact same workouts. The group using creatine added an average of 4.4 pounds more muscle mass than the control group who saw 0 gains. Crazy, right? How does that happen? Well, initially, creatine pulls water into the muscle cells, a process called cell volumization, which quickly increases size. But over time, it also alters key cellular pathways. It lowers proteins that stunt muscle growth and boosts hormones like IGF-1, which actively signal your body to build new muscle tissue.
All right, Section 3, brain health and memory. Time to fuel your brain.
Now, what's really interesting here is the cognitive side of things. We usually associate energy expenditure with physical exercise, but your brain is incredibly energy hungry, requiring massive amounts of ATP to perform complex tasks. And the contrast in cognitive performance based on diet is truly striking. Dietary creatine comes primarily from meat and fish, so vegetarians naturally have lower baseline levels in their systems. When researchers gave creatine to vegetarian subjects, they recorded a staggering 20 to 50% improvement in some memory and intelligence test scores. By simply filling up that phosphocreatine tank in the brain, their cognitive processing got a massive, measurable upgrade. But it's definitely not just vegetarians who benefit. Age plays a huge role in cognitive and muscular decline. However, a study focusing on older individuals showed that just 2 weeks of creatine supplementation significantly improved their memory and recall abilities. It just highlights how inclusive this supplement truly is. It's not just a young athlete's tool. It acts as a very real, powerful protector against age-related cognitive decline and muscle loss.
Which brings us to Section 4, Fighting Fatigue and Disease. Let's talk neurological defense.
Because creatine is so incredibly effective at managing energy and protecting cells, researchers have spent years studying how it interacts with major neurological and metabolic conditions. The early research, specifically in animal models, is deeply compelling. A key factor in many neurological diseases is a severe drop in the brain's phosphocreatine levels. Animal studies showed that creatine prevented a 90% drop in dopamine levels associated with Parkinson's disease. In mice with Huntington's disease, it restored the brain's phosphocreatine stores, noticeably reducing cell death. It even extended the survival rate in an ALS animal model by 17%. Now, human trials are still ongoing, of course, but the potential for creatine to act as a defense against neurological diseases is an incredibly promising frontier of science.
Let's look at another wild number, 50. In a 6-month human study dealing with traumatic brain injury patients, those who supplemented with creatine experienced a 50% reduction in dizziness compared to those who didn't. Plus, only 10% of the patients taking creatine experienced fatigue, compared to a massive 80% in the control group. Whether it's from a brain injury, sleep deprivation, or exercising in high heat, creatine is proving to be a formidable fighter against systemic fatigue.
And beyond the brain, it also impacts metabolic health. Research indicates that creatine may actually help lower blood sugar levels. It does this by increasing the function of something called GLUT4, which is basically a transporter molecule that escorts sugar out of your blood and into your muscles. Studies have shown that combining creatine with exercise leads to much better short-term blood sugar control after a high-carb meal, which is absolutely crucial for reducing diabetes risk.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, Safety and How to Use, the practical application.
So we've covered a ton of ground today, from cellular energy to brain protection. With a compound doing all this heavy lifting, it's totally natural to wonder, what's the catch? Well, the crucial point is, there really isn't a catch for healthy individuals. Creatine has been researched for more than 200 years. Let that sink in for a second. We have extensive, rigorous clinical trials lasting up to 5 straight years that report absolutely no adverse health effects in healthy people. It is widely considered one of the cheapest, safest, and most thoroughly verified supplements on the planet.
And utilizing it couldn't be simpler. You really don't need a complex regimen or a crazy loading phase. A standard, highly effective dose is just 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate powder a day. That's it. Taking it consistently just ensures your cellular phosphocreatine stores remain topped off, ready to supply ATP whenever your body or your brain demands it.
Which leaves us with one final thought to ponder. We've seen the evidence, from supercharging your cellular engines and accelerating physical performance, all the way to protecting your memory and fending off fatigue. This simple, natural substance has a profound impact on human health. So, armed with all this knowledge, I leave you with this question. How will you fuel your body and brain today? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the amazing science of your own biology.